A very good morning to all the distinguished panelists and our online viewers. On behalf of my organization, Institute of Medicine and Law, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you all and thank you again for making time from your busy schedules on a beautiful Sunday morning to be here for this session to discuss and deliberate on a very important and interesting topic: reuse of single-use medical devices, bridging the policy gap. This now almost seems like an annual ritual, an event that we conceptualized in 2015 with a close associate and friend, Dr. Nitin Madekar, is now in its 10th edition. Friends, the world as we know it today is changing at a very rapid pace, and we are witnessing unprecedented change all around us in almost all spheres of life, including rapid strides in medicine and the healthcare system. And the policies or SOPs have to keep pace with these changes. The National Convention on Medicine and Law attempts to not only highlight such areas where change is required, but it also brings together various stakeholders from among the HCPs, the legal experts, the policymakers, member of parliaments, patient advocates, industry representatives, media, and others to discuss and deliberate on one specific issue, come up with probable practical solutions, and then, more importantly, propagate these in the form of a well-drafted white paper, which is circulated with all the stakeholders to shape policy decisions driving meaningful change. We are happy to note that there have been a few changes in areas like virtual autopsy, an issue which we had also raised in 2018, a law for ambulances, which we raised in 2015, violence against doctors, delinking brainstem death with organ donation, and many more. Today, we continue this pursuit, exploring ways to bridge the policy gaps and shape the future of healthcare. Let's work together to drive positive change and to shape a better future for healthcare. We believe that together we can. With these few words, I would like to invite the chairperson to open the session officially. If Mr. Justice Ravi Tripathi ji has joined, could you please open the session? Okay, in that case, can I request the convener, sir, Dr. Barun Nayak, to formally open the session, please?
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. So I officially declare this session as open.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Nayak. Let me introduce Dr. Another topic that he had suggested, another contentious legal issues that was troubling the ophthalmologists, and the current issue that we will be deliberating upon has also been raised by him. Dr. Nayak, over to your opening remarks, please.
Yes, I will and I'll share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Where it has gone.
like me to share it?
No, means I think I'll be able to, yeah, I'll be able to do it. Can you see mine?
Not yet. Yes, sir.
Now I think you'll be able to
Yes,
see.
sir. Yes.
Yeah, good morning once again. Firstly, I'm thankful to the Institute of Medicine and Law for taking up this important issue of reuse of single-use medical devices, bridging the policy gap. This topic is very close to my heart, but mostly it is neglected for many reasons. It has a large implication as it affects everyone's life. We lack regulatory requirements. However, the ground reality is that many institutions and doctors are reusing single use devices, but they all prefer to remain silent, the main reason being legal implications. There are various, these are the stakeholders, has already been described. And in this, definitely we need support from the media as well to make it as a means it's known to everyone in the public as well. The main concern for everyone in reusing devices are these, which is enumerated here: the functionality of the equipment, safety, cleaning and decontamination, sterility, and also the confidence perception that it is good, it can be used. So that kind of perception, we have to develop it confidently. The major implications of this is definitely, without any doubt, the cost and impact on environment. This probably you will be able to today come to know in more detail in the deliberations. Today we will get to hear from experts about how we can take this forward so that the government's attention and prompt action is, we can withdraw that, setting guidelines through regulatory authorities and cooperation from the manufacturers also. That is also equally important, because unless they cooperate, this cannot be achieved. The reprocessing facility can be created in various ways, such as in-house by third-party agency or original manufacturers, which the experts will throw light on the course of the deliberation. And before I proceed further, just the three terminology I want to, because there is some overlap. The refurbished is the old equipment which is having some defects. It is again remodeled and in the factory itself, and as if it is performing and is certified that it is, the performance is as good as the new one. The remanufactured is a little higher, because you open up the entire machine, the manufacturers open up the entire machine, and then it is again assembled and many parts are changed. Sometimes it can perform better than the original ones. But today our topic is reprocessed, which is the single use devices, which how we can use it or reuse it with full confidence and without any legal implications. So with I hope that by the end of the deliberations by all the experts in their own field, we will come to a consensus document which could be submitted to the government for their consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Barun Naik ji. And I now invite our CEO, Mr. Balaji Nair, to say a few words. Mr. Balaji Nair.
Thank you very much, Ravi sir, and good morning to everyone. Honorable dignitaries, distinguished speakers, dear participants and colleagues, a very good morning and a very warm welcome to each of you. As you all are aware, we at the Institute of Medicine and Law have been working at the intersection of medicine and law for the past 18 years. We provide practical guidance to doctors and hospitals to ensure and improve patient safety with the help of law. We also assist lawyers and patients to understand the realities of medical practice. This convention deviates from our routine. It is an initiative to identify gaps in the current laws and regulations deliberate on the best possible solution, and draw policymakers' attention. The tone and tenor has always been collaborative and not adversarial. Your presence is just not encouraging, it symbolizes a shared commitment to build a healthier, safer, and a more legally empowered India. Let's make this day meaningful. On behalf of the Institute of Medicine and Law, I take this opportunity to welcome you all to a wonderful day of deliberation and discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Balaji sir, and apologies for changing your name. It's Balaji Iyer, not Balaji Noyer. My sincere apologies.
No problem, sir.
A little. Okay, so I believe Justice Ravi Tripathi ji has joined us. Welcome, Justice Tripathi ji, the chairperson for today's session. Very brief introduction of the chairperson. He is somebody who is very dear to our organization, and he has been a friend, mentor, and guide for us throughout our journey. His knowledge, his interest, and his passion in this domain makes him a go-to person for any sort of guidance. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And now coming to the moderator for today's session, he has already introduced himself, so I do not need to repeat the introduction, but let me just say that he is a very familiar face, another close friend and guide, and a go-to person again for anything related to medicine and law. Over to you, Dr. Parag Rendani, to take this session forward and to conduct it in your own fantastic way.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, panelists, as well as viewers. It's my privilege to moderate this very important discussion on a topic that sits at the intersection of medicine, ethics, law, policy, and public trust. The reuse of single-use devices, of refurbished devices. I love the definition that is given by Dr. Barun sir. Around the world, the pressure is to expand access, to control costs, as well as to reduce waste. This is leading us to increasing conversations around reprocessing and reuse. But in India, this subject also raises certain crucial questions. What does safe reuse really mean? What is safe? What is accountability? Who is accountable when something really goes wrong? Do current regulations protect patients adequately? And do they need strengthening? Ultimately, how do we balance affordability with uncompromised patient safety? Today, we have a unique panel: lawyers, healthcare professionals, policymakers, and citizen representatives. The clinician will focus on outcomes, the lawyer on liability, the policymaker on system-level safeguards, and the public on trust and transparency. Our goal today is not to take sides. Our goal today is to illuminate the path towards ethically sound, legally defensible, and clinically safe practices. This has to be rooted in evidence, let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, and also aligned with patient rights, ensuring transparency towards the payer, the ultimate payer, our patient. I look forward to a candid, respectful, and solution-oriented conversation. And without further ado, I would first like to invite Dr. Vijay Agarwal, a very senior clinician and the president of the Consortium of Accredited Healthcare Organizations, my mentor and guide. Dr. Vijay Agarwal, sir, let's hear from you on this topic, sir. Dr. Vijay, sir. Okay, some technical difficulties.
Yes,
There, sir. Yes, Vijay, sir.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you, Parag and Ravindra Mangalji and the Institute of Medicine and Law for taking up this very contentious issue of the reuse of single-use devices. And I feel that if we can find a solution today, it will be a red letter day for the entire medical profession and the community. I think the most important thing is how do you bypass the directive of the manufacturer, where he says that it is a single-use device. And second is, of course, the technology to ensure that when we are reusing, it is safe. And third is that how do we transparently pass on the benefit to the consumer? I think these are the second and the third part are in our hands, and that is to define the safe way to reuse it and to create a transparent mechanism to pass on the benefit to the consumer and to create transparency. However, I think the most vexing problem to my mind is the legal issue of the manufacturer saying that it is a single use device and under what circumstance can we try to override it. So I think if we will be able to get over that hurdle will be the biggest outcome and will go a long way in providing safer and more accessible care to the country. So thank you, Parag. I don't have much to add. We like to hear from all the people. Thank you.
You hit the nail on the head, and I think you've laid the context for the broad issues at stake here. Is it safe? Is it legally tenable? And how transparent this is? Are we able to pass on the cost benefits to the end user? I would like to now invite Dr. Ashish Indani, Associate Member, Association of Indian Medical Device Industry, the AIMED, and Clinical Investigation Evaluation Expert and Author. Dr. Indani, over to you. We say we want ABCD. You say you're able to provide CDEF. How will the twain meet? How will we get something that benefits all of us and that is very, very sort of productive overall to the health of the nation, to the health of the consumer? Over to you, Dr. Indani.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Parag, and thanks the Institute of Medicine and Law for inviting me here. So I represent the industry and I'm also a healthcare professional, so I'll try to keep it as balanced as I can. The first most important thing that I would like to say, what a single-use device means. Single-use device from the various perspective will have different aspects. Like, so first of all, let us understand that a single-use device legally means it should be used only once, that is in one patient in one procedure. If it is used multiple times, it is actually a violation of its definition itself. If I say that, that means it's not just violating what manufacturer has said, it is already also violating the regulation which is currently. Second thing is when there is a single-use device manufactured by any manufacturer, the manufacturer, based upon head technology assessment, based upon various economic outcomes, etc., set the price in a particular way. Because you cannot understand the price of the device at the day zero, even if there is a manufacturing. Suppose I have a manufacturing cost of say 10 rupees, and if I have to recover those 10 rupees, it is impossible to recover those 10 rupees in first few first tenure, first initial tenure of that device. Okay, so usually, like insurers do, the manufacturer also try to load their I will not say profitability, but at least their cost recovery over several years. So there are certain devices which are criminally overpriced. I will not say about that, but at least the devices which are routinely used as the single-use devices, in those the prices are actually about to be distributed over various. They are supposed to be distributed over over a decided predetermined number of cells. When these devices they get reused, actually that chain is broken and the break-even point for the manufacturer reaches late. So this is the second practical challenge from the perspective of manufacturer. Here, I'm not saying whether that is right or wrong, but I'm just putting around what happens on the economic side. And the third side that comes is the accountability, like all other speakers before me, they said, if there is a problem in a reused device, who will be accountable? Because the original manufacturer hasn't reprocessed it. The hospital who may have reprocessed it or some middle parties who have reprocessed it, they are not aware of the entire engineering and assembly of the device, etc. And in this case, the original process versus the follow-up process, in these two processes, if there is any gap, no one has validated. And then there are several aspects which come like the materials, if the material retaining any microbial contamination, if the materials have degraded because of the second time, third time exposure to the heat and all those things, these are also various aspects. So when we are saying reprocessing, while we understand that it is going to give a cost benefit to the patient community, we also need to understand, are we actually reducing the cost to the patient, or are we increasing the risk to the manufacturer as well as to the patient? And as I said, there will be solution for sure. And if there is a safe solution that comes out, the entire industry will be happy to take it. But today, this happens like if a device which was supposed to be used one time that gets processed 18 times, and at the 18th time that device breaks, and the notice comes to the manufacturer saying that your device malfunctioned. So that's the reason the manufacturers and the industry is extremely against utilizing single-use device into multiple setups. However, we all are aware that this is currently also happening, and without this, there is no sustainability in at least a country like India. We will produce a lot of biomedical waste besides all the economics that we are discussing. Therefore, as I said, if there is a safer solution, if there is a legal solution, the industry will also welcome it, provided that their interests are.
Thank you so much, Dr. Indani. I really appreciate your candid point of view. I would now like to move to Dr. Sanjay Kumar Agarwal. Dr. Agarwal is a consultant nephrologist, a kidney transplant physician, a member of the NOTO Apex Advisory Committee, honorary secretary of the Indian Academy of Nephrology, and the president of the Institute Kidney Foundation. Dr. Agarwal, nephrology patients are typically the ones who are most at the receiving end of reuse of single-use devices, equipment, etc. Your point as a clinician, where do you see this with respect to the safety angle? Where do you see this with respect to the actual clinical outcomes getting impacted, sir?
Good morning, everybody. Nephrology is also one of the field where the devices are very extensively used. And my perception is that the primarily reuse reason is the cost of the device. So here is a comparison of whether we can save a patient by using a device versus some inherent risk of reusing the device. But we primarily go on the basis of the studies which has been done, because a single-use device in nephrology area is primarily filters which is used in hemodialysis, and the filter which are used in the transplant scenario also to get the absorption of the antibody against the donor cell. So these two devices are not in rupees, these are in thousands and lakhs. So there are patients who just cannot afford, and we take two things into consideration while reusing these filters and other devices. One is that there is a scientific publication based on the studies in Western world as well as in India, proving the efficacy as well as safety of the reuse of the device. To put one point that, say for example, dialyzer, even government of India also accept that the reuse of the dialyzer is acceptable and safe and efficacious. That is why when the tender process is floated for public-private partnership, there is a clause that how many times of a filter can be reused in a dialysis setting. Now, so it's primarily on a cost basis, and the safety of the environment is actually a byproduct. One another point I would like to say that although manufacturer write that it is a single-use device, they also suggest the reprocessing method if you want to use the device, although that they don't write in black and white in their product brochure. So these are the thing I will and another thing which is important in reuse is if we are reusing in a same patient versus if we are reusing in a different patient. These are also one of the issues. We were in being in a government setup in All India Institute for 38 years in nephrology. We were using not only the device in a same patient but also after sterilization with proper reprocessing, we were using the same device in another patient also. And safety and efficacy, both in experience as well as in publication, has been shown. So I feel that manufacturers should also keep, while advising the single use of the device, some language in the product brochure that in different circumstances or in a local condition it can be reused. I mean, that is the type of a language will be more appreciable and save the legality of the professionals as well as give a confidence on the patient that although it is preferably single-use device, in circumstances which may be mentioned, it can be reused with while following the adequate precaution of the processing methods. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you very much, Dr. Agarwal. I think it's a very, I don't think it's like walking three tightropes at the same time. On one hand, you have the national accreditation body, which clearly defines that the organization must have a policy for reuse of single-use devices. On the other hand, you have a government negotiating for lower rates based on reuse of single-use devices. Then you have the regulator who is refusing to acknowledge anything about reuse. And the moment there is reuse, actually things are counted in hospitals and penalties are levied. Hospitals are actually shut down. On the other hand, you've got the patient who is blissfully unaware of what's going on. And of course, the manufacturer who gains to benefit if single-use devices are used only singly, but also understands that the Indian market and the Indian diaspora is not ready to accept this. So I guess it's as complex as as things can go. And I think to shed further light on this, I would like to invite Dr. R.D. Ravindran, Chairman and Director, Quality, Arvind Eye Care Systems. Let me please note here that Dr. Ravindran is specifically requested for a couple more minutes, and we are going to grant that very gracefully to him for the sole reason that this is an institution that not only works in India, but also works in Bharat. So to that, Dr. Ravindran, over to you, sir. Sir, you are not audible, Dr. Ravindran, sir.
Thanks. You can hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But thanks for involving me and our institution in this particular meeting. I mean, can I share a few slides?
Yes, sir. Of course, sir.
Okay. Yeah, please. Can you see the slides now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So, Aravind, we are a large organization. We have about 69 hospitals.
Dr. Ravindran, can you please go to display settings and make it single? Yeah, because we are able to see the next slide also, sir.
Okay, 1 minute. 1 minute.
Excellent, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, Aravind, we have about 69 hospitals across the whole of Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry, and also Tirupati. On any given day, we see around 20,000 outpatients and perform close to 3,000, 2,500 to 3,000 procedures. And last year, we had seen about 6.1 million outpatients and performed about 734,000 procedures. Of that, it includes about 450,000 or 4.5 lakh cataract surgeries. And 50% of these patients, the care is provided free or at very steeply subsidized cost. I mean, so we have the philosophy is to make the care accessible and also affordable to the patient. At the same time, maintain the highest quality, not compromising on anything. So that, whatever we do is based on some scientific evidence. And in the year 2009, we had published a paper on the incidence of cataract and post-operative endophthalmitis in Aravind Hospital, looking at about 42,000 consecutive surgeries, which were done over a period of 15 months. And we showed that the incidence of endophthalmitis is about 0.09 or 9 per 10,000, which is almost at that point of time, that was probably, if you look at the international rates, it may be like 8 or 9 per 10,000. But what is different in our system is, compared to what is the West, is it is based on using short cycle steam sterilization, which is again a controversial point, and also continuous reuse of gowns, gloves, surgical tubing, and solutions. It is basically a lot of single use were reused after proper disinfection, cleaning, and sterilization. So we showed that it is really safe. So based on this, we had somebody from US, environmental engineer, came and did a Fulbright scholarship looking at the waste generated from Aravind during cataract surgery, and also look at our infection rate and the complication rate. And she showed that, compared to UK it is like the carbon emission following a cataract surgery in UK is about driving a car for about 500 kilometers, whereas it is only 25 kilometers in Aravind, because the amount of waste generated is very, very less. And she also went back to America, and where she also looked at 5 other institutions, look at the waste generated there. And this compared to this slide, where she studied about 5 institutions, where they generated somewhere between 2.5 to 5 kilos per cataract surgery. So, and only one US facility was using recycling. And compare this to Aravind. In Aravind, we generated only 40 grams of solid or hazardous waste, and we also generated 160 grams of reuse of, which went for recycling. So you have to compare this. It is about 200 grams versus about 5 kilos in US. So, but if you look at again, by this time, we also had changed a lot of practices. We adopted new practices. As a result, our endophthalmitis rate at this point was only about 2 per 10,000, because we had started adopting intracameral antibiotic. It has come down to 2 per 10,000, which was much lower than what was in US and UK. But at the same time, our carbon footprint was 20 times. I mean, in the US, it was 20 times higher than Aravind, even though their endophthalmitis rate may be similar or lower than Aravind. So subsequently, we have done several papers. I just want to share it. And then when COVID happened, we had to change a lot of practices, and we had to adopt a practice exactly like what is being done in US or UK and European countries, because we had to have only one person at the table, and we had to change everything for every case. And we all looked at about 85,000 sequential surgeries done during that period of COVID, and we found no difference between the pre-COVID period and during the COVID period. So we said, no, even adopting the different protocols as in West is not going to make a change. And then recently we have done a paper looking at the microbial contamination or microbiological safety profile of reused surgical instruments. So we looked at nearly about 3,000 surgeries. It was a prospective study. We divided for each of those 3,000 surgeries, we had a group of instruments which are sterilized, which underwent immediate steam sterilization using a high-speed autoclave. So we took a sample from there. We also took a sample from instruments which were not in contact with the patient's eye, but they were continuously used. That was the second group, which was unsterilized. Then we also looked at the residual fluid from the bags after using it for 4 or 5 patients, same bag. And we did not find any bacterial or fungal growth in the 3,300 plus samples, which are observed for about 7 days. And these are all just to generate some evidence. And also, none of these patients developed endophthalmitis over a 6-week follow-up period. And we recently published a paper on the endophthalmitis rate, because ophthalmology, there are different aspects to reuse, but ophthalmology is all about infection. We looked at about 1 million consecutive surgeries where we have reused the phaco cassette, which typically used for one case. Probably here we must have used, say, about for 1 lakh cassettes, whereas against 1 million cassettes elsewhere. And we also showed that our infection rate consistently was about 1 or less than 1 per 10,000 surgeries. So this is briefly I wanted to share, because what I want to share is we also have generated evidence. We are trying to generate evidence that reusing single use with the proper care can be safe and effective. So, and also cost effective for the patient.
Thank you, Dr. Ravindran. I think it takes some amount of gumption to not only do what you believe is right, but also to be able to gather the evidence and present it to the public eye. I think these are the things that will take the nation forward, and these are the things that will help us to not go the quote-unquote American way of everything being overtly expensive. Thank you very much for that excellent presentation, sir, and for the excellent work that Arvind Eye Care Systems is doing across the country. I'd now like to invite Dr. Alok Gangurde, Associate Professor, Emergency Medicine at Dr. D.Y. Patil College, Navi Mumbai, and the Vice President of SACTEM. Sir, my question to you is going to be very broad-based, but I'd like to understand in emergency medicine and as patients come through with all the challenges, what is your outlook on this particular matter, Dr. Gangurde?
Right. Okay. So before starting, I had a few things to just cover up.
Please go ahead.
So yeah. So thank you so much for the moderator and the honorable chairperson and the conveyor and the dear panelist. So let me make my position very simple and very clear in this 5 short facts that I had, and I have jotted it down. So in India, we are already been reusing devices in like 40 to 60% of all the high cost procedures like PTCA balloons, or be it guide wires, or catheters, or clips, or endoscopic clips. Everyone in this room probably knows that this is happening every single day. The fact number 2, the new imported cardiac catheters, which are basically 1.8 to 3.5 lakhs approximately, after proper reprocessing, the same device would cost at approximately 40 to 80,000. But for 80% of the Indian patients, the new devices means no procedure at all. So, and the fact number 3, right now there is zero regulation in India, which basically says there's no license required for reprocessing, no Indian standard as per the US FDA or the European MDR guidelines, or there is, the no mandatory functional testing or sterilization validation. And there is no separate adverse event reporting for reprocessed devices. And fact number 4 is India can save more than 8,000 to 10,000 crore every year and reduce biomedical plastic waste by 20 to 25% approximately. So I think there was a few questions being raised by Dr. Ashish, if I'm not wrong. I think he had 3 important questions which were been raised by him, that if manufacturer would spend in crores, and if we reuse, the recover cost is very slow, and even a 10% profit margin takes years. So respectfully, that is a commercial argument, and I would really like to say something on it. The same companies in US and in Europe, they have been selling it at 40% to 60% lower prices than that in India. And in US, after the regulated reprocessing started in 2000, now the new devices pricely actually fell 15 to 30% because of the competition. And now, if recovery of R&D is real worry, the companies reduce the first sale price for India. That can be one of the things. And instead of forcing poor patients to pay 3 lakhs for a 40,000 reprocessing catheter, that can be one of the very important factors. The second question raised by Dr. Ashish was the accountability, like who will be accountable for it. So in this case, I feel the hospital and the doctor are 100% liable if negligence is proved. But in the last 15 years, if you could see, the 0 doctors or hospital have been convicted when they have been following a proper protocol, informed consent and documentation. That was clearly been stated by the Delhi Health Code, the Kerala Health Code, and a lot of cases were been published before this, which had the same say on it. And so today we protect ourselves with consents and records. That is a most important part. And I think so you were been talking about the so if you could just tell me what was the question, I would really be glad to answer that.
No, I think you presented your point of view very, very lucidly, Dr. Alok, and I think we will rest it at that. We'll come back to you in the second round, where you'll have an opportunity to voice or to bring clarity to your points.
Right.
With that, I'd like to move to I don't see Dr. Palshetkar if she's not there. Okay, we'll come back to Dr. Nandita Palshetkar, infertility specialist, at some later point. I'd like to move to one more very dignified luminary, Mr. Nadeem Anam. Nadeem is the Associate Director, Medical Technology Association of India, MTAL, and working with government affairs, policy advocacy, and stakeholder engagement for the medtech sector. Nadeem ji, your point of view on the discussion on hand. Where do you see this going? And while I, not in rebuttal to, but just to add to Dr. Alok's point, I think Make in India is one brilliant answer, but let's not go there right now. We'll come to that in round two. Nadeem, over to you for your point of view, please. Take your time.
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Parag. Good morning, panel chair, convener, moderator, distinguished panelists, and the attendees. So I'm here on behalf of the Medical Technology Association of India, which is a leading association of global medtech companies in India. And we represent a wide spectrum of the medical device and equipment universe. So the reuse of single-use devices is a highly contentious topic, and I appreciate the attempt to discuss it with a diverse set of stakeholders today. I hold a slightly different view on the topic, and I thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to present it. So firstly, thank you for that. So we all understand the pressures, the cost constraints, the access gaps, and now the environmental concerns as well. But as an industry body that holds quality and safety at the core, we believe that no patient should ever have to trade safety for affordability. So that is my number one, that I would like to underscore. So as we all know, the reuse of single-use devices is already a reality in several settings, and therefore let me start with the term itself. Single-use, I feel, it's not a commercial label. It's a scientific classification. So devices which the manufacturer marks as single use is because of how they are designed and the risks they carry. Many of these devices have very micro lumens. It has delicate hydrophilic or drug coatings, epoxy bonded joints, or some of the materials that these consists of. They are not intended to withstand these re-sterilization cycles. So they are not reusable devices that are thrown away. They are non-reusable by design. So that is why the manufacturer labels it as single-use devices, and that is how the license is also obtained from the regulator. Now, this design reality, I feel, creates three major safety concerns that when reused. So see, these are single-use devices, and when it is reused, there are three major safety concerns. One, of course, there are eminent people here from the healthcare field, so they would know. So, hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, sir.
I think the video went off. I don't know why, but anyways. So the first is cross-infection risk. A device not designed for use, I feel, for reuse may have cannot often be cleaned completely. So even after cleaning, microorganisms can remain. So some pathogens, including highly resistant ones like prions, they cannot be removed. So the second concern is residual chemicals. So when we clean, it means using chemicals. With single-use devices, residue-free cleaning is going to be very difficult. And the third one is, the material degradation and device failure itself. So reprocessing exposes devices to heat, pressure, disinfectants, and the plastics Often there are plastics which can soften or crack. There may be coatings which can peel, bonds can weaken, and performance becomes unpredictable. So the concern here is not just only infection due to reuse of single-use devices, but it can also be mechanical and functional failure. And here I would also like to echo some of the things that Dr. Ashish Indani had mentioned regarding the manufacturer's responsibility. So the manufacturer takes the responsibility for the first use, for what the device is intended to perform. But when it is reused, where does this responsibility get placed? Now, if we look at there are arguments that in other countries, there are some other countries like US and Japan where we see reuse happening. But if we look at it from an Indian context, we must understand that in countries like the US, reuse happens through licensed reprocessors who must prove the validated cleaning. They have this tracking mechanisms for every device through the UDI systems, unique device identification systems. They have reporting adverse event mechanisms. They have recall responsibility. So that ecosystem in the US has taken years to build. So India is still building that infrastructure. For example, the UDI systems, we are in the drafting stage of the UDI policy. We already have a adverse event reporting mechanism, but unfortunately it was voluntary till quite some time back. Only recently, I think there has been steps to make it mandatory for all stakeholders to report adverse events. Now, when it is voluntary, it is really not going to have a big impact. So that sensitization, that awareness still needs to be done. So only after these safeguards are put in place, then we can look at how we can adopt some of the practices that other countries are already adopting. So these are my concerns that I would like to put forth to the group. Thank you, Dr. Parag, for the opportunity.
I think you've managed to acknowledge the elephant in the room, the fact that there are reasons why these are not supposed to be reused slash reprocessed in any way. And if we do so, functionality to some extent does get hampered. And specifically when we're talking about extremely small lumen catheters, small lumen devices, the whole question is that about quality assurance. Please note that reuse of single-use devices in so-called developed countries, I think we are also there, but we don't have that legislation yet. I think the whole focus on reuse of single-use devices is very clearly stated as if it were processed de novo. So, and therefore the burden of the reprocessing, the proving that the reprocessing has been successful, not only from a microbial decontamination point of view, from a sterilization point of view, but also from a functional use point of view, is something that falls on the reprocessor. Typically, reprocessors are different from the users or the manufacturers, and therefore third-party assurance is something that is sought. Thank you very much for acknowledging that, Nadeem. I really appreciate your point of view. Now let's move to the patient's point of view. Let's understand what the patient safety advocates have to say. A very dear colleague and a very senior professional in healthcare quality, I move over to Dania Michael. Dania is a core committee member of the Patients for Patient Safety Initiative, also is a member of CAHO, the Consortium for Accredited Healthcare Organizations, whose constant endeavor is to push healthcare quality percolation in every walk of life. Dania, over to you. Your point of view, from the patient's point of view, what does the patient care for? What are the patient's main sort of points of concern, and how should we address them? Over to you, Dania. You have 3 minutes. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Parag and Devinder sir, for giving me this opportunity to share healthcare quality professionals and patients' viewpoint. So my priorities is going to be always the same: safety, right, and trust. So on the issue of reusing single-use medical devices, patients' view is very clear. Reuse is acceptable only when it is safe, scientifically validated, and openly disclosed. So today, what happens is most patients do not even know that reuse happens. This lack of transparency creates ethical issues, and then loss of trust, legal issues. So the case in 2018 in Maharashtra also showed the same thing, how hidden reuse and wrong billing can harm everyone. So at the same time, I completely agree with the evidences shared by Dr. Ravindran, which proves that safe reuse is possible when the process is standardized. So basically, our patients are expecting only three things. Tell me what are you using, prove that it is safe, and do not bill me for something I did not receive. So the transparency builds trust and reduces litigation. So what country needs today is a strong national reuse policy which will define which device can be reused and how it should be reprocessed, how consent needs to be taken, and how billing should be taken, as said by Dr. Nadeem and Dr. Alok. So my message is very simple. Patients do not fear reuse. What they fear is hidden reuse. So safety plus transparency is the only way forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Danya. I think everybody is hitting the sort of the nail on the head, so to speak. And I think these are points which are very relevant. I don't believe I see Dr. Raghuvanshi. So I'm going to move over to the policymakers now. We have with us a very esteemed dignitary, Mr. Vishal Shukla, Deputy Director of the National Accreditation Board for Laboratories. Mr. Shukla looks after the new areas for testing and calibration verticals like medical devices testing and calibration, software testing, diagnostic radiology, quality assurance testing, etc. Shukla sir, over to you. Your point of view on how we will finally reach the light at the end of the tunnel, sir.
I'm audible, sir?
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. Please go ahead.
Very good morning. Very good morning to the dignitaries and the panelists over here. I don't think so that at what level as a National Accreditation Board for Testing and Laboratories are relevant to this thing. But as per the accreditation body, actually we are providing accreditation to the laboratories for testing and calibration as per 17025. And the medical device testing laboratories, and most probably we are having more than 100 laboratories in testing and calibration laboratories which are doing the testing and calibration of the medical devices equipment. And in those equipments we are having all the equipments which are there in the MDR rule for A, B, C and D category. And for the medical device testing also, we are granting an accreditation, I think so in more than 2,300 laboratories in India. So few things regarding the reuse of this device. Actually, I'll just first of all as Dr. Alok said this point that there is a zero regulation for medical devices in India. So this is, I think so that, and mostly I also visit and I also audit the laboratories and the hospitals where I found that people are not aware about that how the medical device to be used. As simple example, if I'll say you, I visited the hospital and they were using the autoclave over there, which is used for the sterilization of the, all the equipments which are used for the operation theater. But the fellow who was doing that activity, he was not knowing that at 121 degrees Celsius only, those microorganisms which are there actually, those are killed. But at 114 degrees Celsius, he just, switch off that autoclave and take out all the equipment outside from there. So awareness is not there to the people actually, how they have to use the equipments. Okay. And for the reuse best thing that Dr. Sanjay Kumar Agarwal sir was also saying, and Mr. Nadeem was also saying, that I think so that the best fellow who can decide the use of these equipments are manufacturers, because they have developed that equipment and they are knowing that the characteristics and the specification of that equipment. So how either that equipment can be used a single or maybe it can be reused. So I think so that there would be some regulations, proper regulations to use for these medical devices, because I think so that somewhere we or our family members would be there in front of these medical devices only. So with this thing, Mr. Parag, I think so that I'll stop over here.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense, but I'd just like to underline that it will be bodies like the National Accreditation Board for Laboratories, it will be bodies like the National Accreditation Board for Hospitals and Healthcare Providers that will have to be the torchbearers in terms of setting standards for recycling, reuse, refurbishment, because at some stage it will have to be an external audit which is going to be drawing the line between what is correctly done, what is not correctly done. I'd also like to drive another point here that one is that CAHO itself is doing a lot of work around education, but also the nation has something called the Healthcare Skills Sector Council, which exactly addresses the needs of these professionals, the so-called CSSD or the TSSU professionals. We are actually working on courses which are standardized across the country. So somebody who gets trained, for example, at Rajagiri Hospital, Kochi, has the same curriculum as somebody who gets trained at Arvind Eye Care, and the standardization of these professionals will also lead to better reprocessing, reuse, if the law permits and if we are able to move in that direction. Coming now to another old friend, Arkaprabha Bhattacharya.
Mr. Parag, just sorry to interrupt you.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, sir. Just sorry to interrupt you. Actually, I have to go somewhere else. Actually,
Please,
so I
sir.
can
Please. Of course.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Arkaprabha Bhattacharya is the former Assistant Director of the National Accreditation Board for Hospitals and Healthcare Providers. He has worked extensively in hospital operations, quality assurance, business processes and compliance, accreditation and audit, as well as expansion of departments and specialties. Now, we know that the National Accreditation Board for Hospitals and Healthcare Providers specifically has a standard in the CSSD, in the care of patients chapter, to the best of my knowledge. Danya, correct me if I'm wrong, on reuse of single-use devices. The international accreditations, the Joint Commission, the ACHS, Australian Council also has such standards. Your point of view on the subject on hand, sir.
Thank you, Parag sir. Thank you, Ravindra sir, for having me here. So my experience of the last 17, 18 years, if you go back in the hospital operation and hospital quality assurance, there is no such policies and procedure if 18 years back, because there are no national standards or state level guidelines. But after the accreditations came into picture, now hospitals started developing policies at the hospital levels. But this is for last 10 or 10, 15 years. But if you see from the accreditation point of view, if you go to for assessment in a hospital, even in my hospitals, the implementation still is a gray area. Why? Because the end user still not being trained. They are in dilemma. They have some gray areas how to clean those single-use device for reuse. So the training is a big challenges for us at the hospital level. Point number 2 is what Dr. Dhani was mentioning, that how to communicate this thing to patient, because patient, they are layman. They don't understand between the difference between a single-use device and a reuse device. They want to be safe. So communication to the patient is always a challenge for us at the hospital level. Even the accreditation body says you have to take consent. So patient is really apprehensive to give consent for reuse of a single-use device. Point number 3, it has been my experience in visiting different hospitals for the purpose of assessment, because the ultimate goal of to use a single-use device for reuse to cut down the cost and pass on the benefits of the financial benefits to the patients. So that particular field is very, very gray. Hospital is using single-use device for reuse, but the financial benefit is not being transferred to the patient sometimes. So the point is, the hospital should have a very in-depth policy of the using devices. They should communicate to the patients, and the financial benefit should pass on to the patients. But the challenge is lying here when we make policy at the hospital level, we don't have any guidelines. So we make the policy as per our own discretions. There's no other option left. So the need of the hour is we should have a policy or the guideline, at least the guidelines that can help us. Second point that I think Dr. Sanjay was mentioning, that we should have for healthcare field, we have a lack of data for every field. Same for this particular topic also. We should start genetic data, the how many surgical site infections or any procedural infections happening due to reuse of devices. If you can generate such data, maybe in future down the correlations that can help us, the policy maker, develop guidelines. So having said that, the challenges for us, and secondly, the so the training cost and challenges that overcome, then I think reuse of a single-use device is the need of the hour, but we should help us by developing new policies and guidelines. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Arko. Much appreciate your point of view. I think we've heard from the clinicians who are obviously going to be there. They want clinical efficacy. We've heard from some patient advocates. We've heard from the accreditation bodies, either former or current representation. I would have loved to have Ms. Viveka Roy Chaudhary. Unfortunately, she's not able to make it, because we would have heard from both the press as well as a fierce advocate of patient rights. Nonetheless, I will now move to the Illuminati, the judiciary, and to my legal fraternity. The first esteemed sort of legal friend that I will call upon. By the way, my daughter's studying law, so for me, all lawyers are friends. So it's always pertinent to note that. Advocate Mahendra Bajpai. Advocate Bajpai is an advocate of the Supreme Court of India and an honorary director at the Institute of Medicine and Law. Advocate Bajpai, we have been discussing this on and off. I would like to understand two facets from you specifically, and then please feel free to add comfortably whatever you want to. Where does the law stand on this, and where do you think the law should move with this? Over to you, Advocate Bajpai, sir.
So, Parag, you have asked a wrong question to a wrong person.
Okay, I will take back my question, sir.
Question to a wrong person. I never have been on the side of policymakers. Whenever a question comes in court, a constitutional court, we try to punch hole, we try to find out the constitutionality. In fact, I had been requesting Ravi sir that please don't put me amongst the panelists, because I have nothing to speak on this subject. There is no law. Okay. That's the hard fact. The what we call it as the state, and state means states and all its functional bodies, organs. None of them, which includes the regulators also, have given attention to this aspect of medicine. So, Parag, I have answered your question, and I will just take 1.5 minutes, and I'm not going to speak on the topic that is being discussed here. I have a shlok from Bhagavad Gita. Very probably most of us know that, from chapter 2, verse 47. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Let not be the fruits of action be your motive, nor let your attachment lead you to inaction. So when you don't have anything to speak on your subject, you must speak on religion and philosophy. That is what I'm doing. Parag, probably 10 years back, you were also there at the Nehru Science Center.
Yes.
Where this very topic was raised, and it was raised by Dr. Barun Naik only. He had brought it to the notice of the organizers. It's an important topic. He had a problem with the knife at that point in time. That I can use that knife 10 times, but my hospital is saying you can't use it because the manufacturer is saying no. I can bring down the cost. It was not about his fees. It was not about anything else. It was about affordability. And many of the speakers today have been talking about reuse as something that will give that treatment to the patient. 10 years down the line, again 3 months back, He got hold of one of the articles published in, I presume, Lancet. And again, he sends it, see, now there is evidence. Let us work on it. Friends, we are working in a functional democracy. In a functional democracy, it is the people who are the ears and eyes of the lawmaker. Law has not changed. We don't know that the law will change tomorrow or will not change tomorrow. But let us make efforts in the right direction. Let us raise voice. And with what is written in Bhagavad Gita. If something again comes, probably Dr. Barun Naik will once again come. This is far more better. And 5 years down the line, we will again have a session on reuse. Somewhere it is going to hit. We are contributing to this, to the betterment of healthcare in our own little way. On the topic, friends, there is a conspiracy of silence, if I could term it. Hospitals are reusing it, not talking about it. Device manufacturers don't want a reuse. They are not talking about it. That's all, Parag. On law, I have absolutely nothing to speak. There is no law on this subject. Thank you.
Given the fact that there is no law, Advocate Bajpai, one very naughtily wonders whether the so-called not so great Bharatiya Nyaya Hit Samhita sections on doctor penalties and imprisonments will also at some stage not encompass this particular thing, because frankly, this is a matter of policy, and just because the government is not raising a policy on this, one wonders whether things need to be done in time. But thank you for acknowledging the fact that the law is currently silent on this. The quasi-law, so to speak, the accreditation bodies, the government itself, in as we heard from Dr. Agarwal in terms of public-private partnerships, is not so silent. And therefore, one wonders as to whither goeth thou. And if we are not able to really know, then one must not be penalized for doing something which is, I will also refer to Sanskrit, and I will refer to something called Narova Kunjarova. When one is not, why should one sort of, आंखों में धूल झोंकना, ये अब मुहावरा नहीं रहा है, ये हकीकत बन गई है. So with that, I will pass on, and I acknowledge. Yes, Advocate Bajpai, you have half a minute left. Go ahead.
So it is not aankhon mein dhool jhokna. See, in law, there will always be a gray area. Everything can't be in black and white. Probably let us accept it. This happens to be a gray area. I presume one of the esteemed panelists said right now that the government in its tender, even if it is a single use device, they are saying how many times it can be reused. Perhaps they are acknowledging this somewhere. Perhaps if someone comes to me, I have to represent someone, I will bring that tender document before the court and say, look, this is what the government is doing. If they can do it, why I as a private hospital can't do it?
But I'm grateful to policymakers that they're slowly but surely we clarified the whole concept of do not resuscitate. I think the country has moved forward on that. And at some stage, I do expect us to see light in this area also. I do understand, Dr. Ashish, that you have to move, and I will come back to you before we close, but I want to finish listening to the legal fraternity.
No, so, Dr. Parag, I need to leave because I already have boarded the flight. So,
okay.
I have put my points to Nadeem and to.
I will request Nadeem sir to read it at an appropriate interval, sir. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for your participation. Safe travel, sir. I will now move to Advocate R. Sundarajan, Advocate High Court Mumbai and partner SR Law Associates. Advocate Rajan has been a part of the National Convention on Medicine and Law for as many years that I can remember. Over to you, sir. I understand that the law may be silent, but let's understand the legal sort of hues, if I may say so, the legal hues that surround this topic, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rindani, esteemed panelist, and thank you to Advocate Mahendra Kumar Bajpai, because he did not touch upon all the topics, so he left some room for me to talk about. So, a lot of panelists have spoken about a few of the points, and they have touched upon some of those. Okay? So, I'll dive right into the legal aspects. So, the pertinent questions that come to my mind when we are speaking about this topic is first is, who should be held liable in case something goes wrong when the devices are reused? Okay. Should it be the manufacturer? Should it be the reprocessor, or should it be the user? From a legal standpoint, purely. The second is, who will ascertain, where will it be measured that the economic benefits of such a practice are actually being passed on to the patient? Of course, there is going to be a lot of benefit to the so-called medical waste and the bio waste that is generated across the country, which is again a very big problem from the environmental perspective. And the last is, I think, that where there should be some sort of a board or some sort of a body or a special certifying system or a process that has to be created for approving not just the devices but the process as well. So I thought, we don't have the law, but let us see what do other countries have from a legal perspective, not from just from the scientific perspective. So the first I went across and I saw all the countries, the first I came across the United Kingdom, and they have the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, and they have published a regulation wherein they acknowledge that reuse is happening within the UK, but per se they do not permit it. They have said that any device that has been re-sterilized by the user and reused against its advice of the manufacturer will be the responsibility of the institution doing the re-sterilization, and they have to understand the risks and the benefits of this approach. They have hit upon another topic very pertinently, the second one, and they said that the reprocess of a single-use device, and if they pass it on to some other legal entity, which means they reprocess it, re-sterilize it, and then sell it to somebody else, then they will have the same legal obligations as the original manufacturer of the device. So the UK clearly doesn't permit it. Now, very interestingly, the US FDA permits the reuse of such devices. They have regulations for it. So they are very favorable to the idea, and they ensure that the safety and effectiveness of the reprocessed devices by regulating device manufacturers, third-party processors, and hospitals that reprocess these devices in the same manner as the original equipment manufacturer. So they have these regulations in place. They acknowledge that while not all devices are suitable for reuse and reprocessing, certain devices which needs to be demonstrated and then they will be reused. And they have classified it into three categories: class 1, class 2, and class 3. Class 1, class 2 being non-critical, semi-critical, and class 3 being critical. So for class 1 and class 2, they have created a very separate list, and they said a reprocessor must submit pre-market notification to the FDA. It includes the testing and the validation of the data that is being tested. Where have they tested it? How have they tested it? And what is the maximum number of times that it can be reused? Ascertain it beforehand. And for class 3 devices, which are high-risk devices, there are additional steps in addition to the class 1 and class 2 devices. After looking at both of these and comparing this from a different part of the world, different economics, from a legal perspective, very clearly there is precedence somewhere else. And legal fraternity always looks at precedence as a very big value, which classifies these devices into different types of risks: low risk, medium risk, high risk. It lays down operational framework. There is a precedence for such framework, and there is a reporting mechanism back to the central body. To conclude all my remarks, I would like to say that as a nation, if we are to go forward with such a proposed policy, then the first thing is, I think definitely there has to be a regulator and a regulating body that actually brings across these things. Number one is onboarding and certifying of third-party and in-house reprocessing units. And I think they have to be brought on board and they have to be identified who are these and certified. Second is categorize medical devices and equipment based on their criticality so people know what it is they can be reprocessed and what cannot be reprocessed. The third is lay down the tracking and destruction mechanism for such reprocessed items. The fourth is affects responsibility for violation of these regulations. And the last, from the patient side, is to promote education and consent mechanism for full transparency to patient and assertion of their rights. I think the patients have the right to decide whether a reused device should be used on them or whether they want to go for a fresh device. Sir, I'm ready to pay for it. Please give me the fresh device. I don't want to take any chances at all. I think these policies is what the regulator must bring. There has to be very detailed policies, and a special regulator must be brought into place. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, sir.
Thank you very much, Advocate Rajan. I really appreciate the points that you brought up. Very structured, very, I don't want to use it staccato, but very bullet pointed in your approach. Really appreciate your input, sir. I'd like to move to Dr. Chirag Balian. Dr. Chirag is the founding faculty member and assistant professor of law of the Maharashtra National Law University, Mumbai, associate professor at the D.Y. Patil School of Law. Dr. Chirag, being a lawyer as well as an academician, you had the opportunity to probably review this in a wealth of detail. As I learned, I picked this up from my lawyer friends, by the way, in an abundance of detail. Multiple facets covering this: informed consent and disclosure, liability and negligence, standard of care, the gap between policy and law, documentation, traceability, multiple aspects. Your inputs on all of this, please, Dr. Chirag, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Parag. So I heard in the beginning somebody saying this topic is close to that person's heart. Probably this topic is much closer to the heart of those people who have those catheters in their heart, of pacemakers, which are reused. And I would also want to respond to Advocate Bajpai, who said, I'm not here to take sides. Probably Advocate Bajpai takes side whoever hires him as a counsel. So that could be the reason he chose not to take side. But I'll be taking side. I'll be making my position clear. Should we reuse it? Yes. But how, under what circumstances, what legal parameters is something we need to discuss. It has been said in today's discussion that we do not have a law. But my question to all the doctors, practitioners, everybody here is, why do we always need a legislature or regulator to say what is the right thing to do? There are hard laws which are created by the parliament, which could be created by the regulatory body, but then there are also soft laws. At the institutional level, what stops a group of hospitals or medical institution to frame their own internal policies? Because let's not forget that use of single reuse medical device possess a legal risk. Earlier, Dhanya Michael was mentioning about 7 hospitals in Maharashtra being booked for reusing medical device. And there are many such cases. So it is a legal risk. So if it is a legal risk, as doctors, as hospital, you need to ask ourselves, without any regulatory protection, why are you doing it? And if you are doing it, are you taking adequate legal safeguards? See, what a regulator would say, regulator is for the hospitals, right? If at all a policy will come, it will benefit the hospitals. It is not going to benefit the users, because users, patients have the law in their favor. If anything happens, for God's sake, has to happen to a user, to a patient, they could go under medical negligence law, they could go under consumer protection law, they could go under torts law, bring a case and can ask for compensation. So the question to be asked by the doctor community, by the medical community is, do you have your SOPs at place? Are you taking informed consents? Are you labeling the product? If the product is being given to the patient, are you labeling it as reuse? Because US regulator says you need to label it. We don't have a law does not mean doctors, hospitals, medical institution cannot learn from other countries. So US has a policy at place. So we could prepare our what we say risk vulnerability factors and prepare a policy. Okay, we must label it. How hard or difficult it is to label it. So as earlier mentioned by one of the panelists, transparency is the key, right? Transparency. Now, if we look at legal systems worldwide, I have a disagreement with my previous speaker, Advocate Rajan. He said UK bans it. UK does not ban it. UK scares you. UK say you use it, but if you use it, you understand the consequence. You could be sued as a manufacturer. So you have to assume responsibility as a manufacturer. So as a reprocessor, you should have similar kind of facilities, similar kind of protocols, so that you are safe to go to the market. And if you do not do that, understand. But then there are countries like France and China, which have explicitly banned it. Currently in France, 2-year pilot project is going on. And in that pilot project, they're evaluating if they should change their policy stance from complete ban to use. So the decision which will be taken in France is a practice-based. It is a data-based decision. Currently, what we see, generally we want to make decisions, in fact, laws or policy without having adequate data. So France started, there was a constitution, France secession is their apex court, like we have Supreme Court of India. They declared it unconstitutional. And then their parliament enacted a law that this cannot be done. Same with China. Then we have countries like Germany. What Germany does, Germany treat so manufacturer could say it should be reprocessed, or it could say single use. Germany have a same policy for both categories. So they are saying whether manufacturer permits reprocessing or it does not permit reprocessing. If you are reprocessing it, there are similar set of guidelines which should be used. Then we have country like United States, which is fully regulated. And then we have country like India, which does not have adequate regulation. There could be some guidelines here and there. I saw one notification of the ministry, but it was just saying that if you are a reprocessor, you would be treated as a manufacturer, right? So if hospitals need to ask a question to themselves, do they have quality assurance measures at their hospital that, or do they have adequate infrastructure that they could comply with all the requirements which a manufacturer has to comply, right? Because US insists that. So hospitals in India need to ask them, and they need to ask whether they are ready to comply. Now, I'll give some suggestions here. If at all a regulation has to happen, how it will happen? Earlier, somebody said if manufacturer says no use, single use, it means there should not be use. I would say there need to be distinction between no single use versus not to be reused. So manufacturer, depending upon the quality of material they are using, they could say in no circumstance they should be reusing it. Manufacturer should have some responsibility of sharing their clinical data with the customers they are sharing, especially in those sectors, in those medical procedures which are of critical importance to our country. So manufacturer should take some responsibility. Now, earlier, Nadeem ji, I think he said it is a scientific classification, but much of the literature we saw in most of the reputed journal, they say it's not a scientific classification. Sometime manufacturer just say it's a single use so that they don't have to do additional clinical trials, etc. So it's not necessarily scientific. Sometimes it is just to get things off your shoulder. So a clear responsibility for manufacturer. In fact, in some of the states of United States, there could be a responsibility for manufacturer, because manufacturer should be able to preempt whether his product will be reused, and if it will be reused, whether it is suitable for it. So just a statement by manufacturer does not completely absolve him, and that is a opinion of some of the legal scholars in Belgium. That is the opinion in some of the states in United States also. So manufacturer need to step up. We also need to consider the constitutional perspective. We have Article 21, right to life.
Dr. Chirag, another 30 seconds, please. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Supreme Court of India has said right to life includes right to health. So it's not just a cost-cutting mechanism, right? It is also something about affordable healthcare. So are we going to give affordable healthcare to our patient? But affordable healthcare, as mentioned by some panelists, is not necessarily a risk to the patient. So obviously there need to be protocol. Now, when we come to hospital, we need to regulate how are they charging. So if they are purchasing product at 5,000, even after reusing, are they selling it at the same price? They need to have protocols for it. In fact, there are some commentators who says reused product should not be charged at all. If at all you are talking about access to healthcare. We need to distinguish between private hospital and government hospital. Private hospital charge the exact amount, but government hospital are already doing these surgeries and operation at a very subsidized rate. So whether government hospital should also be made to do that. And when it comes to the patient, we need to ask, do they have a right to refuse? Right? Earlier, somebody mentioned they should have a right to refuse. I'm asking, do they have right to refuse, especially in government hospital versus private hospital? So we also need to consider that kind of setup. So these are some of my remarks on the topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chirag. Once again, my apologies for interrupting you, but we have to just keep up with the time. So while we have finished round one, I'm going to give each of our participants about 2 minutes to come back with points, counterpoints, views, adversarial views that you might have. And I'd like to start in a similar order. First of all, before I go ahead, I'd like to give an opportunity to Dr. Barun Nayak, sir. Any comments, views, counter views on what has been said so far? There have been quite a lot of good points brought about, and thankfully, that's the advantage of the National Convention on Medicine and Law, where everyone gets an equal and a very, very respectable opportunity to air their points of view. Dr. Nayak, sir, anything specific? Over to you, sir.
No, thank you very much. And it's a really, it's a great listening to all the different experts in their own field. And then it sounds as if it's so confusing as it can be. That it's someone is telling that, yes, we should do it. Others are telling, no, we should not do it. So, but we have to come to a consensus somewhere. And ultimately, I think definitely we have to have a regulation. Otherwise, doctors are just left in a lurch. And probably we have to depend on some advocate. And then it depends whom I have hired. Whether I have hired Kapil Sibal, then I can do anything if I can afford to do that. Otherwise, I am always at a risk. So go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you. And even amongst lawyers, just like amongst policymakers, as they say, munde mathir bhinna, different points prevailing in different minds. With that, I don't know whether Dr. Agarwal, sir, is still logged in and is available. Anything, sir, any views, counter views on what was discussed so far, sir? You have a couple of minutes.
I just want to bring 3 points. Number one, Mr. Nadeem said that affordability should not be compromised. Sorry, Dr. Vijay Agrawal, please. Please go ahead.
No problem, sir. Sanjay ji, getting to see you after a long time. Wonderful to get connected with you.
Sorry. My bad, Dr. Sanjay sir. This is called look-alike, sound-alike names. My apologies. Which is why in patient safety, we always have two identifiers. In this case, we'll keep it to the first name and the last name. Dr. Vijay Agarwal, sir, over to you, sir. I'll come back to you, Dr. Sanjay, sir.
So anyway, I of course I could not hear the whole of it, but to my mind, and I think I must compliment Dr. Ravindran for presenting one of the most fascinating presentations. Evidence that it is being used. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes. So I'm saying that the issue that it is being used, and there is enough things to talk about safety and regulations can come about it. The only problem which needs to be sorted is the legal protection that the profession can get. Otherwise, वो कहते हैं ना परनाला वहीं बहेगा जहां मर्जी आप मर्जी बात कर लो. So people will continue to reuse for this thing. Transparency guidelines can come out. Patients have to be given the choice to refuse, but that is on the basis of what he is ready to pay in a private sector. If you are using the fresh one, he should be asked to pay more. And if he is using the second one, then it should be less. And that should be his choice. So I feel that the most important thing that we have to get from people like Bajpayee ji and Ravindra Mangal the most crucial issue.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Vijay Agarwal, sir. And Nadeem, sir, if I may request you to fill in for Dr. Ashish Indani and present his points first. I'll give you a separate opportunity later to pitch in with your own points. But if you could just read out Dr. Indani's points, I'll be very, very obliged, sir, to you.
Sure. So he made 6 points. Now I'm not fully, I'll just read it out and
please read it out. We acknowledge these are not your points, sir.
Yes. So I think he was trying to respond to Dr. Alok regarding the cost of device. I think the cost being lower in US in India. I think he had stated that, but Dr. Indani says that is not the case. So the cost of device is certainly not lower in US than in India. In Europe, however, it is lower because there are zero taxes on Europe or very less taxes on Europe on the entire value chain. Also, he says that there is no profitability at the institution level between the bill to the institute and bill to the patient. In India, currently, that is the biggest cost. Okay, that was point number 1. Point 2, he says, our hospitals do not report any adverse events, unlike US. We hardly have qualifications. Corporate hospitals and accredited hospitals have a large gap in this process. So at this point, I also touched upon in my in the first round submission that I had made, that the adverse event reporting mechanism was voluntary until a certain till a few months back, and only now it has been the process has been made mandatory. The Material Vigilance Program of India, which is MVPI, under India Pharmacopoeia Commission, that is taking steps to make it mandatory for all stakeholders, including the hospitals, including the manufacturers, the users, also the patients, to report any adverse or severe adverse report events that they come across. So I think that is a very important step that will really help us in the preparation to make our regulatory system more robust, and that is the first baby step we need to take before even going into the conversation of reuse and reprocessing, etc. So I'm just adding a little bit of context from my own as well to Dr. Indani's point here. The third point he mentions is that the single-use device was systematically introduced concept by healthcare authorities and not the industry for the risk of infections. Fourth point is that instead of getting into recycling of single-use device, we can start with safer devices. Fifth point, he's asking the question as to who ensures the safety of reprocessors. So here again, maybe I'll also add my points when you come to me later. And the sixth point that he's mentioning is that the doctors and hospitals today insist on US FDA CE over local regulations. How do they think we can accept the reprocessing laws? So that is a question that I think we all need to think and answer together. So these are the limited points, Dr. Parag, that Dr. Indani had shared with me.
Thank you. Thank you. So just to that point, I think there has been a recent notification. I think it's as young as 48 hours to 72 hours, where the government of India has come out with a clear notification to not limit quality parameters as being CE or US FDA only, but also to take Make in India and Indian quality norms as a very, very acceptable and intricate part of the acceptance levels of quality. So to that point, the government is moving. I will come back to you at some stage for your own points, Dr. Nadeem, but thank you for articulating Dr. Indani's points. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Agarwal, sir, any points on rebuttal, any additional points that you'd like to add/counter?
Yeah, I just want to add 3 points. One is Mr. Nadeem said that affordability should not compromise the quality. But in many clinical situations, affordability is actually making difference life versus death. If you are not using there is a risk to the life to the patient. Second thing is that a peculiar issue when once the government says that dialyzer can be reused and the patient says no, I don't want to reuse the dialyzer, then the patient has to pay the additional cost of single-use dialyzer. And third thing is that I understand in a legal scenario, many a time the thing done in a good faith is considered acceptable and probably legally it may be valid in a medical science. These are the 3 issues which I wish to add as compared to previous points.
Excellent, sir. Thank you very much. Dr. Ravindran, sir, over to you. Also, if I could have an opinion on a domain not familiar to you, on the non-eye part of the anatomy, if we could have your point of view, whether if you have any such experiences, if you could also add some points on that, sir. Dr. Ravindran?
Yeah, sure. Thanks again. I mean, in ophthalmology, it actually goes beyond the reuse policy. There are a lot of ophthalmology is a very high surgical volume. Last year, we had done about 1 crore or 10 million cataract surgeries in India alone. But what we really need to do is somewhere around 1.4 or 1.5 crore surgeries. I mean, we need to increase it by another 40-50%. So, which also means, we have to use, there's a continuous use of equipment is one issue. And the number of patients we need to have and sharing of supplies. All these are part of ophthalmology. So we are also trying to work with the industry. I mean, not at India, but at international level with several organizations like American Academy, American Society for Cataract and Refractive Surgeons, Asia Pacific Academy. All these papers which we have published is to support, create evidence so that we can put pressure on the manufacturers as well to come up with reusable things instead of wherever possible. I think there's a strong movement towards making this phaco cassettes being reusable. Whether how they can bring about those tubings, all of that, so that we can bring down the cost. I think equally important is to work with the industry. That's what I feel as important as working with the regulators and creating policy. So I think how we can work to avoid this becoming legal issues is also important. So.
Yeah, I think a very pertinent point you made. I think collaboration is the key, and if we are not able to move ahead without collaboration, I think that's where we're going to suffer. My next question is to Dr. Alok Ganguly. Dr. Ganguly, I think we had stopped and you had said you wanted some clarity on some of the points, and I think now it's become a whole snowballing effect of discussions with all the speakers. You've managed to listen to the patient, you've managed to listen to the policymakers, the lawyers. Any additional points that you'd like to make, Dr. Ganguly, sir?
Yeah. So I think I have some defense points to the previous. I think Dr. What was his good name? I just forgot his good name. He just left. Anyway, so I'll just speak. So basically in India, as I mentioned previously, the reuse is almost 40 to 60% of the costly devices because of the poor patients that cannot pay 3 to 4 lakhs for a new catheter. But some say reuse does not reduce price. But respectfully, if you say in US, the new PTCA catheter is 50,000 to 1 lakh only, because the regulated reuse forced prices down to 15 to 30%. And the same if you see in UK and Europe, the new PTCA catheter, which was 60,000 to 1.2 lakhs only in NHS and the European countries have regulated. The same device would cost in India for a new one is 2 to 3.5 lakhs, which is almost 3 to 4 times higher, because there is no regulated reuse competition as yet. So considering so banning is basically, I think, is impossible, because the court says it's legal only with consent and with informed consent. And we need simple rules that I think we should follow is to license the good hospitals and companies. Only green list safe devices can be used, like a specific list of devices that can be reused. We should clean, test, and sterilize. A new barcode should be put on all the reused devices. If there's a problem, you report it within 3 days, and basically maximum the half price, and tell the patient clearly that the patient can always say no if he doesn't want to go ahead with it. And we should also go ahead with a staff training, a 5-day staff training till 2026, till the time CDSCO is basically changing the rules. I think in the next 6 months, probably we can wait for that, and we can go ahead with this policy terms, which I just mentioned before.
So there's a whole different take on consent. The courts, I will bite my tongue here, but Justice Tripathi, probably in his closing remarks, I request you to also dwell on the role taken by courts on consent, specifically in such contentious issues. But for now, I will move on, and I will ask Nadeem sir Nadeem, you can present your own points of view now, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Parag. So I think many important points have been raised, particularly on patient consent, waste reduction, also global precedents, and there are others. So I'd like to add a couple of points to just contribute to this discussion further. First, I'd like to, I think, respond to Dr. Sanjay Kumar Agarwal, who made a very good point. I appreciate the point on affordability and access versus the quality and patient safety point. So he says that, if there's no access, there's no point of, patient is not going to get the benefit at all. So how patient safety is it becomes a second point. So this is a very valid question, but I think, as a representative of the medtech industry and also the healthcare industry in a lot of ways, we should try to prioritize other ways if possible to promote access without compromising safety. So if reuse is compromising patient safety in any way, we should definitely consider other ways. We can collectively think of other ways. One could be deepening the scope of insurance, including more products, something like that. Maybe spreading more awareness about insurance, which is a very less penetrated area in India. Most of it is out of pocket expenditure, etc. So we should look at other solutions before delving into reuse of single-use products. So that is my submission. Of course, it will need policy support. It will need support of all stakeholders, including the doctor fraternity, the hospitals, etc. So that is one. Secondly, I would also like to clarify. I don't remember who said this, but on the scientific classification point that I had mentioned, just to give a clarification, I did not say that. I did not mean to say that it's a single use is a scientific classification. What I meant to say that the manufacturer, on the basis of the device design, the materials, the risk assessment, the feasibility of sterilization, etc., makes this in the label as single use, and that is on the basis of this the licensing is received. So that is what I meant by that. Now I'd like to come upon on the point on the global precedents. In US, there's this reprocessors who carry out the reuse. So there's a distinct difference, I think we should all note, is that in the US, where reuse is allowed for for single use products, firstly, these are not for all single use products. So they have identified certain limited number of single use devices which can be reprocessed. Now again, when there is this reprocessing process, it's not a hospital level improvisation that you have a setting within the hospital and they are sterilizing, etc. No, here the reprocessors are licensed reprocessors who have validated protocols. They have trackers, UDI, like I mentioned. They have adverse event reporting mechanisms. They have the responsibility liability as well. So we I think touched upon in previously that the manufacturer has the responsibility on the first use when it comes to single use devices. So later when it is reused, the liability is on the user or the reprocessor. In US, it is on the reprocessor. Reprocessor is treated as a manufacturer itself. So it's a manufacturing license sort of that a reprocessor has to take in US. So all these enabling pillars that some of the other more mature regulatory systems in other countries have, I think those enabling pillars in the Indian context, we are still in the process of having those. We have progressed very well, and I think many things are already in place or we are in the right direction, but it will need some more time to complete this evolution and have this regulatory structure fully ready. So before exploring the conversation around normalizing reuse of single use products, we must first ensure that this safety runway exists in the Indian context. So
thank you, Nadeem. Thank you for those comments. I really appreciate it. Danya, your points of view, anything which you'd like to add? If there's something which has been said, kindly just go ahead. Yeah, don't repeat. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Parag. So now, after listening to the first round, I would like to highlight a few key points from patient side. So we know that reuse is already happening. So the real concern is not about the reuse itself, but the fact that it is happening without uniform standards. I completely agree with the point shared by Advocate Sundar that not all devices are fit to be reused. What we need is a clear categorization based on the risk, complexity, and material compatibility. And this point should not be only decided by the manufacturer. What we need is a multidisciplinary regulatory committee involving clinicians, biomedical engineers, infection controls experts, and maybe patient representatives as well. Then another point was on growing cost burden on the patients, which is a real fact. But in certain situations, we know that some of the catheters today cost more than the insurance reimbursement itself. So a regulatory reuse pathway with a proper functional testing and sterilization can genuinely reduce the financial pressure on the patient. The third aspect, again, I would like to reinforce the point made by Dr. Chirag, emphasizing on patient communication. The transparency is not about frightening the patients, but it's about building a trust. So when disclosure is standardized and made part of the consent pathway, that will prevent misuse, avoid confusion, and protects hospitals from future litigation. So a clear communication is not a barrier. It's a safeguard both for the hospital as well as for the patient. So the patients, what they respect, they value honesty very much. So if the hospital can clearly state that this particular device is safely reprocessed, validated, built accordingly, patients feel valued and respected. So in short, standardize reuse, validate reuse, and disclose reuse. That's what I want to say.
Excellent point of view. Just to add my 2 paisa with my 25 years of experience to this particular comment, Danya, if only you had attended the conversation around violent abuse of doctors, if only our public was so mature to understand, when things go wrong. But that's a topic which already happened last year or a couple of years back. Ravi, kab tha? 2 saal pehle? Abuse, violence against doctors?
Yeah, I think 22 probably.
Yeah, so that's a different conversation altogether. But yes, the need of the hour is, as they say, jago grahak jago, lekin doctoron ko mat maro. With that, I will move on to Arka. Arka Prabha, your point of view, sir. Anything you'd like to add? Any new insights that you might have thought of?
Yes, sir. Because trust me, in a hospital, using a new devices is much easy than using a reused devices, because the operation challenges for reprocessing, keeping the records, and traceability is very difficult process itself. So we are just into the reuse of devices not by our choice, is almost by our compulsions. Because some of the patient, as Parag sir said and Dr. Dhanya also said, we have to work with certain financial bracket and certain cost bracket, because for the insurance patients as well as for the panel patient, we have to deliver to them as well. So reuse, we have to do it somehow, and we are doing for decades, is by almost by our compulsions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I would have, as I said, Viveka is not joined, very esteemed senior journalist, extremely diligent in the detailing of work that we've been seeing. I know her now for almost 2 decades. I would have loved to hear from Viveka, but nonetheless, let's listen to, let's start with Advocate Bajpai. Anything that you'd like to add in terms of your comments on where we should be. I understand there is no law, and we acknowledge your very candid, the knowledge of law is supreme, which we understand, Advocate Bajpai. Anything you'd like to comment on some of the points that you heard, where where the lawmakers, where the policymakers should take us, how we should go about it? With your wisdom, if you can kindly enunciate your points of view, sir. Sir, you're unmuted, sir. Sorry.
So, Parag, this time I'll answer your question
yes, sir.
Specifically. What I could make out from this discussion is that, yes, regulations are required. Regulations must be India specific. India is a different country altogether. We can draw inferences from other countries, but all said and done, India is still an underdeveloped country, and we must keep that in mind. We have a rural India, we have a urban India, and something that you repeatedly say, Bharat. Regulations are required. What I could understand from this deliberation is for 2 purposes. One, certainly to protect doctors and hospitals. With no regulation in place, they are at a legal risk. Number 2, regulations are required for the manufacturers to positively disclose. There should be some mechanism why you are calling this device as a single reuse device. What data you have, someone who could vet that. And lastly, Parag, everyone here, I leave the topic of consent to Honorable Justice Tripathi, who is here. But everyone here should read Samira Kohli's judgment. Justice Ravindran has so nicely spelled out the harsh reality of India, where, he's talking about consent and he's saying, what do you expect? A patient in a government hospital who has been waiting for so many days, but not getting a operation theater. What consent are you talking about? So let us take into consideration the harsh Indian realities, and obviously something is required on this topic. That's all. Thank you, Parag.
Thank you very much. But just to shed a little light, Samira Kohli was, if my little knowledge of law doesn't fail me right, I think this was in 2008. Correct me, Advocate Bajpai. Today, with Dr. Google around and ChatGPT around, I think we'll have to look a little more seriously at that once again. As the law is dynamically changing, so is the mindset. Gen Z is, yes, of course. I'll obviously give you
Ground
a chance.
realities have not changed, Parag. Ground realities have not changed.
I agree with you.
And
I agree
Samira Kohli is still good law because another bench of Supreme Court has not commented it on adversely. So it is good law.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just that the social fabric of the country is changing. So that's just the point I was trying to make. I'm not at all debating the law, sir. I have no locus standi to debate the law, especially in the light of such luminaries here. Advocate Sundarajan, sir, any additions, anything you'd like to comment on?
I completely endorse what Mr. Bajpai has said. I think in the absence of regulations, what I would not like to see is increase in the number of litigations, which is only going to further erode the trust between the patients and the doctors. And I think these regulations, for that matter, is very important to bring clarity. Like you said, with Dr. Google and ChatGPT around, a lot of people are getting information in a much more freer manner. People are getting educated about it in a diverse country like ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dr. Chirag, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes more. I believe you wanted to say much more. Dr. Chirag, any counterpoints, points that you'd like to add on, comment on? You've heard, you've been patiently listening, the last in the list, but definitely not least in our priority in terms of your knowledge and the understanding of this particular topic. Over to you, Dr. Chirag, for your comments.
I'll give some bullet points.
Yes, sir.
I think violence happens when transparency is lacking. So transparency is the key. There cannot be any bargain with the transparency and trust. If that transparency and trust is broken, because right now we don't have field data in India, that how many people in India know that they were treated with reused medical device. So the idea is to collect data, to take it to them, take their, again, I would disagree with Bajpai ji, to take still informed consent. Yes, there are people who are waiting in queues, but we also need to understand, unless we start something positive from somewhere, we are not going to make a change. We can't be saying we are in a very bad state of affair and continue the status quo. We need to improve, and we have different kinds of hospital. There are group of companies which are running hospital chains, which could take the lead. We have super specialty hospitals funded by the government, and then there are small bed private hospitals also. So we cannot have one size fit all approach for everyone. Then also we need to identify the sector in which we are talking about, because health has also many sectors. Today we have Dr. Ravindran here who was talking about ophthalmology. Then there are people who could talk about heart diseases, liver, urinary, mind. What are those key critical sectors wherein reuse of medical device is at most necessary and a cost benefit analysis should be done? Now, what we are seeing in India, even at 10 rupees, medical device could be reused. Do we have to? Does that? And what about cost of reprocessing? Because right now the cost of reprocessing is lower because we are not following the SOPs. We don't have SOPs at place. Once you have SOPs, once you reprocess it as a manufacturer would reprocess it, give us data, what would be the cost of that reprocessed medical device, and then an informed decision must be taken that what are the medical devices wherein the cost benefit analysis is working and what are not. I was reading one paper yesterday that from the dead people in United States, pacemakers are taken out and then they are implanted in charitable hospitals in India. Now, do we want to do that? And what should be the protocols for doing that? Right? So again, the questions of ethics and all could come here, right? Earlier in the discussion, a distinction was drawn between refurbishing and reprocessing. So when we are using this pacemaker again, are we refurbishing it or reprocessing it? Because then there are some medical devices which can only be refurbished. We, in a country like India, we are somehow adaptable to jugaad. We are also kind of cognizant that we should be reusing things, and I think reusing is also in the ethos. So we don't have to be really fearful that patients will really say, why are you using that? I think if we are able to build trust, if we are able to use marks, as they say in United States, put a certification mark that this is properly certified, I don't think we are going to see a huge backlash against it. Then there is also a requirement. Hospitals could give an option. So if you get a single use surgery, you will be charged 1 lakh rupees. If you do reuse 50,000, you decide. What's wrong with that? Right now, even if and then there are insurance companies also now. But what the hospitals are doing, 50,000 surgery, they will charge 1 lakh rupees, and even insurance company is able to reimburse that because they know there is an insurance cover. Now, these unethical practices need to stop, and we also need to involve insurance companies as a stakeholder in this kind of conversation. That where do they put their stand? Will they, if there were no adequate SOPs, etc., will they be willing to reimburse my expenses of reuse medical device product? I think those are also the topics we need to consider. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chirag. I appreciate your points of view. Going forward, I think what's going to happen today is that we are going to take just about 30 seconds each. Please, in 3 to 5 words, kindly articulate what would be your top 2 priorities going ahead with this particular topic. Just top 2 priorities. Kindly do not enunciate lengthy explanations because this is supposed to be a rapid fire round. I do want to open it up for the few enlightened professionals who have deigned to join us this lovely Sunday morning. So in a similar order, if we could start at just 2 to 3 words each, your top 2 to 3 priorities, 2 priorities each actually. If I may start, I would also like to give adequate time to Justice Ravi Tripathi sir, Honorable Justice Ravi Tripathi sir. Dr. Naik, I'll come to you for the closing, so I won't get to you now. Dr. Vijay Agarwal, 2 to 3 salient points. 2 points, please. Top of your mind.
So I feel that we need to come out with 2 levels of reimbursement for the procedures for transparency to the patient, that one who wants to get a single-use device will pay a different price as compared to the reuse one. And of course, the safety protocols have to be defined and this thing. But legal hurdles are the issue to my mind.
So differential pricing and safety safeguards. Okay. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Agarwal, crisp 2 points, please.
Yeah, this is safety and efficacy of the reuse should be clearly documented, and we need to have a regulation for safeguarding the medical professionals.
So safety, efficacy, and regulation for safeguarding healthcare professionals. Okay. Dr. Ravindran, sir?
I mean, the one is a lot of useful information. So we will look at our reuse policy, refine that, and we'll also talk to other like-minded institutions, large institutions, see whether we can come up with something that can be published or shared with other ophthalmologists to make it into a policy. The second, we'll also look at a few more products wherein we will generate evidence to show with the company or the manufacturers that they should not be labeling them as single use. So we'll work on that part.
So collaborative approach and evidence-based medicine in terms of proving that single-use devices reuse does not really bend the safety bottom line.
Exactly.
Okay. Dr. Gangude? Alok? Okay, Dr. Gangude is not currently responding. Nadeem?
Yeah. So I would say that in the short term we must, in the absence of regulations on reuse or reprocessing on SEDs, to safeguard hospitals and patients. Firstly, clear advisory must be issued to all healthcare providers to strictly adhere to the label instructions and MDR requirement for SEDs to avoid informal use. In the medium to long term, India should build a regulatory readiness, and in the long term, I think once systems are in place, then we can consider phased and tightly regulated guidelines, which will protect the hospitals as well as patients.
So phase-wise approach is what you're advocating. Thank you very much, Nadeem. Danya?
Transparency through standardized disclosure that should be made mandatory. So patients knows what is used and how it is reprocessed and how it is built.
Okay. Arka Prabha?
Safety, transparency, pricing, and lastly, regulations. If a regulation is not possible at all right now, at least at national guidelines.
Okay. Advocate Bajpai?
Parag, a policy is required. It's short term and it must be India specific.
Yeah, I would only add one word, sir, to yours. I just hope that the testing is multifaceted and all inclusive with all stakeholders. This policy that you spoke about, sir. Okay, Advocate Sundarajan, sir.
I think the policymakers, with the medical fraternity and with the help of the legal fraternity, must come out with a policy, make the manufacturers responsible, and table this regulations with the government and get this passed as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much. Dr. Chirag?
2 pointers: data-driven policy decisions and self-regulation by hospitals, reprocessors in the absence of guidelines.
I think you made that point extremely clear. Mangalji, I am not able to see any questions, comments from participants. Are there any? We can't hear you.
I'm sorry, sir.
Thought I had unmuted myself.
Yes, Danya.
So just one thing, being a quality professional, so even the best reuse policy may sometimes fail without routine audit and process validation. So we need a system to check what is happening in the ground level. So that we have done certain initiation through our standards, accreditation standard, but that may not suffice. So we need a stringent monitoring program.
So to that point, just to add to that point, I know for a fact that single-use devices, which has come, as we call it in Hindi, peti pack from the manufacturer, have also failed. So that in life everything can fail. Tomorrow the earth may stop rotating. That's a different point, but your point is taken, Danya. Thank you so much for adding. Ravindraji, do we have any questions, comments from the worthy audience? Have they put up anything?
Yes. So I have a first question from one Ms. Ria Agrawal.
Okay.
Yeah, there are no guidelines related to reuse of SUDs and hospitals and hospitals are following their own guidelines related to reuse. So what can be done in such a case?
Okay. So I guess the question has been answered. There is a need for policy. There is a need for standardization. A National Accreditation Board for Hospitals and Healthcare Providers does look at reuse policies, does look at verification and validation processes of reuse of single-use devices. There is a mandate to put in numbers as to how many times things are to be reused and so on and so forth. That's the broad answer to the question. I'm sorry, I'm not a panelist. I'm just a moderator, but still answering based on what everybody else is. Any other comments from our esteemed viewers?
Sir, you are much more than a moderator, and I'm sure you had in the opening remarks said that you have a lot to add to the discussion.
No, I'm also a person of interest in a company. So I'm not going to, as I said, these are not my views. I'm merely moderating today. But yes, it's a topic which is close to my heart. I also understand the kashmakash, if I may call it so, between cost and quality. We at CAHO, we always try to look at cost-effective solutions. At the same time, we also affirm that quality is of the highest importance in terms of patient safety. With that, having no further viewers' comments or queries or suggestions.
I have a few more
Yes, sir.
and something very similar, but let's read it out. So again from Riya Agrawal, also in India, there is no provision for reuse of single-use device in Drug and Cosmetic Act. So how can such a guideline be brought up and what are the solutions for this?
Advocate Bajpai, I believe that we will be putting out a discussion paper post this National Convention on Medicine and Law. Is that correct, Ravindraji?
Yes,
Balaji, sir?
Of course.
Yeah. So I guess that's the initiation. I know for a fact that inputs coming out of the National Convention of Medicine and Law have always been taken seriously by policymakers. So to that end, Ms. Agarwal, Dr. Agarwal, I'm not sure who you are, but I'm sure that we will be moving forward in that direction. Anything else, Ravindra?
I have a comment from Dr. T.N. Ravi Shankar, one of our own colleagues and close friends. Most valuable and timely session involving all the stakeholders and knowledgeable faculty. Then I have something from one Ms. Raksha Mangal. From patients' points of view, we would like to understand the risk analysis involved in reuse of devices and process compliances to make it safe. As said by Dr. Chirag, we also need supporting data. One more, categorization of devices depending on risk and criticality with respect to cost is also an important point to be considered.
So while I will pass on this question to Dr. Agarwal, Dr. Sanjay Kumar Agarwal / Dr. Ravindran, who can also opine, but I'll just like to say that from a sterilization and disinfection point of view, you already have the Spalding's classification in place, which classifies things as critical, semi-critical, and non-critical. But that's a secondary point. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Agarwal, would you like to respond to the question about which Ms. Mangal has asked? Or Dr. Ravindran, data on reuse. I think it was presented in an abundance of detail, but nonetheless.
No, in nephrology for the reuse of the dialyzer, we have got data published and we also have got measures to assess the efficacy of the reuse of the dialyzer and safety. These both component has been published extensively. That is why the dialyzer has been reused both in the Western world and in the Indian setting.
Okay, thank you very much. Ravindra, is that the last comment?
That's fine. Yeah. Nothing more to add.
So thank you very much for being an excellent group of panelists. We are not yet done. We still have two extremely important people who will speak here. And I end my role as moderator and hand you back over to the convener. Dr. Barun Nayak, sir, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Parag, for really moderating it so well. And I was really surprised to see the interest by the different disciplines of people. And earlier, I didn't know that it will generate so much of interest amongst different faculties and even different. Now because here all walks of life representatives are there who are stakeholders. So that way, it was really an eye opener. But it really gave me satisfaction that at least I was the topic which was there persisting for so long. And one simple question which I used to ask, that if a diamond knife which we use in surgery is not labeled as single use and our hospital has authority to and expertise to sterilize it and reuse it, then why not a steel knife, which is just because it has been used labeled as circle 2 and one line. It means the company. So suppose in that, I remember last time when we had this program, then one of the panelists who jokingly said that if a company puts a circle 2 and cross in the window of my BMW car, then will I stop using it for the second day? So the question is that the company also should be because the company manufacturers, they are very comfortable when they sell the machine. They always, even the representative will say that no, doctor, you can use this cassette for 4 times, 5 times. Doctors are using it for 10 times. But then I always ask, can you give me in writing? Company will give me in writing that I can use this. Then they say no. Then it means the total onus responsibility lies on the doctors, and ultimately doctors, when, as you said that 2 years back, the violence against doctors, that question was raised. So whenever it comes, everyone thinks that doctors is in the media, the court, lawyer, everyone will put doctor in their dock, and the doctors, sometimes I have seen for some time the fate and the reputation of that doctor goes down the drain. Although he's a reputed doctor, still it goes down the drain. So just to avoid this, there has to be a regulation. There has to be a government authority regulating it, because this is a need of the hour that everyone said. Everyone said. So, and we need cooperation even from the manufacturers, because manufacturers, they never test it, whether it can be reused or not, because it is not required. It is not mandated that they have to declare that. So once it is declared, it's mandated that they have to declare that whether the device can be reused after reprocessing or not. If not, then why it cannot be used? Because there are certain items, so it also needs categorization of certain equipments or SUDs which can be used, which cannot be reprocessed at all. So with this, I'm happy that means whatever the outcome is, everyone's said at the end, means where the safety, efficacy, transparency, these three were very common. Then, and the regulation, it has to come, but everyone voiced that it should come. Otherwise, doctors are at the mercy of so many other forces. So that the health professionals can be safeguarded. Then there was no question about the cost factor, because it does affect the cost, reduces the cost, and also environmental friendly, because the biomedical waste generated is much less. And Dr. Ravindra, as he said, pointed out such a huge comparison. So that's something, an eye opener. But also the point came that we have to create evidence like Dr. Ravindra, which has created, and Dr. Sanjay Agarwal just now said that he had published. So like that, if there are any others who have published it, probably we need those evidences so that the final recommendations can be put forth to the concerned authority. And the company also has to be little more cooperative, according to me, because companies should not always look what is the bottom line of their company when the financial sheets are prepared. So they have to be they have also some responsibility toward the public. So, and one more point which came, that policy should be more of India specific, because if US can have this policy, why not India? Because do you think that US is a capitalist market? They don't want to reuse, but still they are doing it. And not today. It was in 2000, they thought that it should be done, and then they came out with policy. So we have to be really, means if you have to make India great, we have to think on this line also. So thank you very much. And thank you, Dr. Parag, for really conducting so well that I can't describe.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nayak. And I think the most exciting speaker that we've all been waiting to listen, ladies and gentlemen, I invite Justice Ravi Tripathi, Chairperson of the National Convention on Medicine and Law, the former judge of the Gujarat High Court, former chairperson of the Gujarat State Human Rights Commission, and a former member of the National Law Commission, to kindly give his closing remarks. And so, as always, it's an honor. It's an honor to see you in the pink of health and, awaiting your pearls of wisdom, sir. Over to you, Justice Tripathi, sir.
Well, good morning to everybody, because it is not 12 o'clock. The judge's duty is to listen, and you rightly made me to do that, so there's no difficulty on that. See, possibly this question has arose on account of two things. One, as Advocate Bajpai rightly said, that our country has a specific, problems, and for that specific solution should be found out. So far as reuse is concerned, until it goes uninformed and they're charged for the fresh, it is not only ethically wrong, but the doctor should take that responsibility of reusing the products. But first question which came to my mind is, under what provision do the companies, the manufacturers, market as a single-use product? No law has come to my notice, at least, not even during this discussion, that there is a particular law which provides that the manufacturer should mark a particular product to be a single-use product. So first thing possibly is required is that there should be, somebody rightly said that this is a scientific classification and not a commercial label. How far it is true, I don't know. There should be sufficient study on that. There should be sufficient material on that. And on the basis of that, there should be first regulatory body for that purpose, that manufacturers can mark products in a particular manner, that is single-use product or permitted to be reused for 2 times, 3 times, 10 times, whatever it is. That should be the first thing. See, the problem starts when there is a party which feels to be cheated or defrauded with a product being reused and charged for the fresh. Then the question starts. Of course, the body which will be coming forward to give that particular guideline to the manufacturers that they will be marking the product to be single use or reuse will be on the basis of, as somebody was rightly referring to, that there are certain products whose design, of which design is such that they cannot be properly sterilized and they cannot be permitted to be reused. Now that will be the data which will be required to be taken into note of when that regulating body is going to do that particular job. Dr. Dhanya's point of view is very important because that is from the patient's point of view. And she rightly said that safety cannot be compromised. Transparency maximum as is possible, that is going to help the problem. And there should not be loss of trust. Advocate Barclay's point is that our particular masses, how educated they are, how well they understand. And then if there is no transparency in such matters, that is going to create not only dissatisfaction, but, heartburning, and then it is outburst in the form of violation to the doctors. In some earlier discussion, we also had the same thing, that why there should be, strict laws to curtail the violations or attack on doctors and the health staff. That is all because they feel that they are being cheated, they are being, defrauded, and fraud is some I don't know what to say about it. You must have heard about Khyati hospitals in Ahmedabad. Taking the benefit of that PM Yojana, you conduct a free checkup camp in the villages, and from there you hold people as goats and sheep, and bring to your hospital and then operate them. Not only that, you get their Ayushman card prepared, you get every document prepared with the help of your hospital staff, and then you operate them and then claim that amount from the Ayushman Yojana. The amount runs in crores of rupees. And that particular Mr. Karthik Patel is still in jail waiting for his bail. I don't know when will he get the bail. To my mind, he must not get the bail because this is something which is playing with the human life. Now, reuse question arose only when the fraud comes into picture. And secondly, that particular instrument is such that scientifically which cannot be sterilized properly and it is not supposed to be reused. Only in those two cases this is happening. But today's discussion was really fantastic. I enjoyed my morning, though it is a Sunday. But I really enjoyed listening to so many, intellectual brains. My regards to all seniors, those who participated in the discussion, and my regards to younger ones, those who are really, enlightening us on this thing, especially the Dr. Chirag. who has so much of information and who is so much keen on that should be the topic not only should be discussion and discussed, but it should be taken to the logical end also. Mr. Barun Nayak is really a torchbearer, and he must continue to discharge his duty as a torchbearer for this particular aspect. A similar topic which is coming to my mind is about printing of expiry dates on medicines. I request Mr. Ravindran to take up that issue also sometime. That what happens to that medicine after that expiry date, reaches. I'm told that it goes back to the factory. It is repacked with a new expiry date on that. Now, if that happens, only God can save us. Of course, our beloved Prime Minister is trying to bring India to the forefront of the world as a Vishwa Guru, and his all efforts are there. My all moral support with him, but then that moral support of mine only will not sufficient. It will be the moral support of 140 million people. If they put their support, then only these things can come. And I really wish that everybody starts. In fact, if, in your program or some other program at Chennai, I had requested the doctors that you people are in a close contact with the pharmaceutical companies. So request them to manufacture or prepare a drug for three things. The honesty, integrity, and sincerity. Ask them to manufacture that. And I told them, I made an offer that I'll be the first person to be the consumer of those drugs if they are so scientifically prepared and certified that they are safe for the use. This is what is lacking. And for that, Mr. Ravindran will have to undertake some more courses on this, that how we can develop integrity and honesty among all our, brother citizen. Mr. Mahendra Bajpayee is right when he says this, that, sir, it's really very difficult to deal with these questions when they come to the court. Because every time greed comes in, and when greed comes in, people forget about the propriety and all that. And then the things, take this shape. I'll not say shape, it is bad shape which is taking. And it is causing, it brings bad name also. I really wonder if the pacemakers from the dead bodies are taken out and they are brought here and then they implanted here. Well, I have no words to say except saying again that only God can save us. I remember an anecdote. A Russian came from the then Russia, USSR, to India because he had heard that this country is run by God. So he moved around the country, and then when he was going back, the journalists, as they are known for, they put the mic in the mouth and said, "Sir, now what do you think? Is there God and he runs the country?" He says, "Yes, India is the country which is run by God only. Nobody else is running this country." We may feel bad about it, but then it is a fact that honesty and integrity is the first thing which is required to be injected. I am saying injected. I am saying injected to the people at masses like our corona, that vaccine, so that we have brighter future and a great country like India. Thank you very much. I thank Mr. Ravindran and also Mr. Dr. Parag, conducting the session so well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Justice Tripathi, for those pearls of wisdom. I will just end with one small comment from my side. Many years ago, about 2 decades ago, we came out with the monograph on To Err is Human, which primarily has the entire motto of patient safety is primum non nocere, which means primarily do no harm. And that's what we should end with. We must always remember that we're here not to add to the woes of the patient, but to take away from them. So with that, I'd like to end, and I'd like to request Ms. Shubhi Dikshit, the event coordinator for the Institute of Medicine and Law, to kindly give the vote of thanks.
Sir, before that, before Shubhi takes over, just my add to Justice Ravi Tripathi. Thank you for your kind words. A great man once said, "There is enough for man's need, but there is not enough for man's greed."
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
I completely agree. And thank you for that wonderful suggestion on expiry of medicines. We will definitely try to take this up somewhere in the next convention or somewhere else. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Should be over to you, please.
Thank you, Ravindra sir and Dr. Parag for the opportunity. On behalf of Institute of Medicine and Law, I would like to extend a sincere vote of thanks for the successful conclusion of the National Convention on Medicine and Law. We are profoundly grateful to our esteemed chairperson, Justice Ravi Tripathi sir, convener for the session, Dr. Barun Nayak sir, moderator for the session, Dr. Parag Rindani sir, and our expert keynote speakers for their invaluable addresses and critical insights on complex medical legal issues. A huge thank you to all the volunteers, our media partner Express Pharma and Pharma State Academy, and our dedicated team for their meticulous efforts and flawless execution, ensuring that NCML 2025 is a success. And we look forward to meeting you all again at our next convention. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.